Well, that's what I get for trying to be quick. Hey, welcome all. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Chris Jagger, and I am actually joining you from home again. We had a little electrical fun at the store today, and so I went home just to make sure we were on. So tonight I am being joined by Christina, Suzann, Nelson. We are going to talk about her book, Shaped by the Waves, but other things too as it comes up in the conversation. So make sure you type in your questions, and we will make sure that we have answered them as quickly as we can. So, and I know Christina will be joining us shortly. Sometimes those Zoom cameras don't go the way you want them to. I know mine didn't. Here she is. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. I flashed on and off, so I know the camera thing just, it doesn't come on, then all of a sudden you hit it twice and you're back off again. It always works out well. So I should ask, where are you joining us from tonight?
I am in the mid-Willamette Valley in Oregon. So
okay.
It's a really great place because it's only about an hour from the ocean and an hour from the top of the mountains. And yeah, it's just we're in the prime location.
I'm somewhat jealous, even though I'm about 20 minutes from a great big lake. So, I like the mountain part. I like the ocean too. But so we're not here to compare what landmarks are the best. But so tell us a little bit about Shaped by the Waves.
Okay, well, Shaped by the Waves.
Beautiful cover.
Isn't it gorgeous? Bethany House does such a great job with covers. I love it. And originally, when I wrote this book, I called it Beyond the Seagulls, because that was a suggestion from this 8th grader I know. And anyway, so we got the seagulls on the cover, so that made me really happy.
I love it.
Shaped by the Waves is a story about a woman who goes back to this very quirky town that she grew up in. And that was probably my favorite part of the story was getting to write these quirky, weird characters that all kind of meshed together to make this odd little family. So Cassie has to come back to take care of her aunt who has been hiding a Parkinson's diagnosis and has also had a stroke. So she's really having a hard time. So Cassie comes back and she discovers that there is so much more going on behind the scenes than she thought, as a manuscript keeps showing up piece by piece, and she reads the story that she thinks might be her own. So I don't want to give the whole thing away, but it's also at the same time we watch her nemesis from high school, Nora, go through her own questioning of what makes her family, and she's done this DNA test and discovered that the mother she thought just ran out on her actually went back somewhere else. And I won't tell you all that either, but there are other people.
And I have to admit, anybody listening, if we do spoilers, I'm really sorry. You had a month to read it, so. But because there's questions. I have questions. Because I have to admit, when I was reading the Nemesis story, I kept thinking you were going to slide in there with that it was like a scam, like these people were scamming her. So I have to admit the storyline was much better than what I came up with. I kept thinking that no, this is just a scam. It can't be this easy, is it? So no question in there, but you know what, it does bring to mind when I thought of, and for those that don't know, I always try to send a few just to kind of get an idea of, where we're going to go with the conversation. But here's what I didn't send you. Is it actually that easy to find like adoptive relatives like that?
So in her case, there wasn't an adoption. So yes, it is. It is that easy to connect with people. 5 of my 6 kids are adopted. So we have a little knowledge in this area. Okay. Yeah, it is.
I have none. Or was that question really obvious that I had none? So this DNA thing, I don't do it myself. I know people that do. Whatever, I have no judgment either way. Personally, I'm not interested. So, but is this something you have done yourself then because of your children, or is this just part of the story?
So this is something that for a couple of our kids, we did get them the 23andMe tests so that they could get more information, because you can also get health information. For me, I had no interest whatsoever for myself, but I did join the Healthy Oregon Project here in Oregon. They have the studies that they're doing, and they're looking at different cancers and DNA. And so I did the DNA profile for them, not thinking anything about it, but it did come back that I had the BRCA1 mutation, the breast cancer gene. So I'm in the middle of tons of surgeries this year because I did that DNA.
Wow.
test. But likely it will save me from cancer. So
Nice.
there is a whole nother layer of how we benefit from that knowledge that I hadn't even given any thought to.
Isn't that interesting? Huh. See, now you know why I ask these things, because I'm just curious. So, but everything looks good for you since we're on that rabbit trail.
Everything has been great so far. I am in the middle of, I'm like halfway through no, not halfway. I'm about a third of the way through the process of the double mastectomy, but it's great. I've got great doctors. Everything has come out cancer-free so far. And I've got insurance that has covered everything. So
that's a blessing in itself, man.
I know my insurance company has got to be looking at the claims this year and going, what happened? She never does anything. But,
I had that this year too. I went in and for one thing, and every time I went to a different doctor, I got sicker. I'm like, what the heck? I was healthy till I went to the doctors. I just stay away now.
That's been my philosophy until this, but
right. So now that we have bored all of the listeners and we're just having a conversation with ourselves now. I apologize. I went on a rabbit trail. I do that every once in a while. I get curious and then I forget other people are listening. So I do apologize. So in Shaped by the Waves, you cover a lot of really heavy subjects for Casey. I can remember I was about halfway through the book and something else popped up, and where I was in the book, I don't remember exactly anymore, but I was like, I'm exhausted for her. So, I mean, you bring up, I listed some of them. You bring up senior family care, with grandma or grandma, but loss of your own dreams of what you want to do, single motherhood, death, and family secrets. It's like, wow. So why would you put so much in one book?
That seems to be my thing.
I just want to know.
Because the thing is, that's how life is sometimes, though. I mean, I will go along for so long and life seems so smooth, and then bam, 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 bam. So let me tell you a brief story.
Okay.
In 2018, I left for the day before I left for Mount Herman Writers Conference, everything was going so smooth in my life. I was close to being an empty nester. Life was so easy. And then I got this letter in the mail, and I opened this letter with one of my kids there, and it says that there's these two kids who need a place to be, and they were biologically connected to one of my kiddos. Would we foster them? That was overwhelming. So then I go to Mount Herman, I get in the airport and I answer a phone call, and that is from the caseworker. And then a few minutes later, the phone rings again and I answer that call, and it is from my dad's then wife. And he had Parkinson's, and he had taken a huge turn for the worse and thought he was in Vietnam. Things were not good. Oh, no. So I spent the week at Mount Herman. It was, it was a good time. It was a good prayerful time. It was just refreshing. It was wonderful. But when I returned home, I had the worst case of vertigo from doing this 60-foot plummet thing on the ropes course. So like the world was spinning all around me. Things are going on, right? So then I go to write the birth mother a letter and found out she died that day, suddenly. And then the next week, my dad died. So we did memorial one Friday, memorial the next Friday. We're making things get all put together for the girls to move in. And I had an emergency appendectomy. This all happened from March to June. So then we had 2 new kids, a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. That is why I put so many things in my stories.
And maybe that's why we rebelled about it, because I'm thinking, oh, that happens in my life and I hate it. So I felt so sorry for him. Like, leave the poor child alone, would you?
That's just truth. I mean, that just happens sometimes. And it is not pleasant when it happens, but boy, does it make you appreciate the times when it's not happening.
Yes. And I agree with that, because the beginning of 2020 was it was from January to the end of March was like that. So right now it's like, I don't even dare say, oh, life is easy, because I'm afraid I jinx myself.
Yeah.
So, but okay, and so I was going to ask, and you've already kind of answered that. I was going to ask about the Parkinson's, and so you experienced it. So
I did. My dad had Parkinson's, and I think one of the things that really surprised me, and I know surprises a lot of people, is the aspect of dementia that comes with Parkinson's. And I mean, not always, but it often does. And it can be really intense. And for my dad, that was by far the worst part. So yeah, he really struggled with that, feeling he was in Vietnam. And
yeah, did he end up, I mean, some of this is personal. Tell me it's not my business, and I'm fine with that. But again, I'm always curious, so I ask, was he able to come back, that he knew who you guys were, or all the way to the end of his life was he?
There was a time where people were driving me back and forth to Salem to see him because I had vertigo. I mean, it was better to where I could like walk around slowly, but I couldn't drive. But there was a point where I could just sit with him and it was okay.
Okay.
But
I'm glad to hear that.
Very, very short. It was so short.
Yeah. And it's always too short. I agree with that. So in that senior family care, the Parkinson's, I mean, we can list numerous diseases that we now have a lot of in the area, in the world, I should say. And so you broach that where, Casey, she tried to do it by herself. And your book, one of the phrases I was using when I was talking to somebody about it was, it takes a village to raise all of us. And I really, I like that you included that even though I'll do it myself, your quirky neighbors helped. So where do your quirky neighbors in the book come from? Uh-oh.
They're probably just a little bit of this person, a little bit of that person. Okay. And honestly, I have a great group of people, a great tribe around me. And I think that probably when we're a little older, we'll look a lot like the town of Gulls Bay. Yeah, because
that makes sense. And you made me want to move in. I'm not leaving West Michigan anytime soon, but it was like, I like how your tribe,
Yeah, they're like the Mayberry of the Oregon coast.
I'm sorry, that just strikes me as very funny. So thank you for sharing that. They're probably just very pleased with you right now. So here we watch, these people are listening going, why am I even on this? So, I did see one question. Here's a great question. I did see that. Is Little Lark based on any one of your daughters, or?
Well, I hear that question a lot from people who know me and who know my little Violet. Violet is now 9. She was 5 when she came home. And yeah, there's a lot of Violet and Lark. Violet just makes you laugh all day long.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like having a comedian in your house.
who's 9.
Yes. And she's a teeny tiny little 9 too.
Oh, nice. Oh, those are the best kind of comedians. So I also, what is you, what, I'm gonna try that in English. When you were writing this, what was the takeaway you wanted readers to get from it?
So ultimately, what I wanted people to leave the story with was that we need other people. We do. We need that tribe around us. We cannot do things completely on our own. And I know this because I am the person who always tries to do everything on my own. So I have a lot of experience with this particular stumbling block. But you have to allow people to help you. And, having surgeries this year, I have been so, and it's probably because I just wrote this book and I learned so much in the process of writing a book. I've been so much better about being able to say, yes, you can bring me a meal. I would appreciate that. That's wonderful. Thank you. Instead of thinking, oh no, what am I going to do? I have to pay them back somehow. And I can't do that right now. But
yeah, that makes sense. And personally, I did get that. I think you brought that very clear in the answer or in the whole story. So I keep trying to come at it without giving out spoilers. So really, readers, you should have read it. I mean, seriously, I'm sooner or later going to give something away. So I should probably qualify this question because I always ask, did you have a favorite character in the book? And I probably should say besides Lark, because I have to admit, I think everybody loves Lark. She was such a hoot.
I've heard a lot of people comment about Lark. I actually really like Mr. Watkins.
I forgot about him.
I fell in love with him from the first moment I started typing him into a scene. So he's quirky and funny, and there's so much more to him than you think. And yeah, I really love Mr. Watkins.
I have to admit, the storyline with the Nemesis, and now of course I've totally lost her name because I keep calling her Nemesis.
Nora
Yeah.
The Nemesis.
Yes, I keep calling her that. So anyways, it did my heart good for that person in high school that kind of picks on you. So were you getting revenge on your Nemesis?
No, actually not. I mean, I don't know that I really had a nemesis in high school. I mean, I don't know. I think I was so self-absorbed in high school. I probably missed if I had one. I was very much a teen. It's embarrassing to say. It's so
for
true.
those of us that did have one, thank you for making them not be perfect in their next life, so to speak, after high school. So
yeah.
And I have to admit, I probably enjoyed that part of the book a little more than I should have.
Well, it was fun. It was fun to write, definitely.
Yeah.
I have heard from a lot of other people that they really enjoyed Marshall. So I know Marshall's been a real
I can see that. Yeah, he was a fun character. So interesting. So I always like how people pick out like completely different ones. That's why I always ask the authors is like, which one is your favorite character? Because it's so different from us readers. So, and why?
Yeah, it's when nobody else is going to pick Mr. Watkins, but.
Yeah. So I want to ask, because you write these, heavy themed contemporary women's fiction. I know some guys that do read them because they're good books, but they're geared towards women. So do you have to do a lot of research for Shape by the Waves or any of the other books you've written?
So it just depends on the book. So looking over at my stack, the way it should be, because I was dealing with addiction and how addiction impacts family and how foster care is mixed into that piece. And I was able to sit down with a woman who spent years of her life struggling with addiction and trafficking and all sorts of horrendous things. And she just very openly unfolded her story for me. So I think that not only did I learn a lot about the realities of even what's going on very close to my own home, but I was able to then share that in a more authentic way. So I do think those things are really, really important to do. That was probably my most important research of any of the research I've done. Some of the fun research I've done has been the ride-alongs, the sheriff's department. I really like driving very fast, chasing people. It is so cool.
You're going to become an author just to do that.
Really, once I talked to a kindergarten class and I was telling them about the galas and the going really fast with the sheriff's department, they were like, oh, something for everyone. But then another thing I did for More Than We Remember was one of the characters was an artist, and she did this multimedia type art that I'd seen at an art show where you do the colored pencil over the top of photographs, and it makes the picture look more like what you see when you are actually there. So like if you're looking at a flower, it looks like the flower. It's just, I can't explain it exactly. So anyway, I met with the artist. Kind of. It just,
okay.
I think it's just the texture.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but it's just absolutely amazing.
Huh.
And this artist,
I remember that.
really,
I was thinking, I mean, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I remember that in that book, and I thought it was just something you kind of like made up. I mean,
no, it's real.
I'll have to look it
I
up.
stumbled across it at an art show. And
Huh.
I actually, the artist came and met with me, and she showed me how she does it. And she gave me it was fascinating. So that was really fascinating too.
Oh, I'll have to look that up, because I really, truly, I mean, and that's good writing. You make something, that is fiction and you make it real, or you make something, I mean, it just blended into the story so well. So,
well, once I saw this woman's art, I had to put it in the story because it was so fun. It was different. It wasn't something I'd known about before. So
yeah. And, oh, I love that you did that. So, because that, I guess, and I have no urge to write, so don't think that, but I think that's what I would be, is I would see something and go, oh, well, that has to be in a book,
yeah.
I love that you share that. So, interesting. Huh. I was going to ask you, what's the most interesting thing you ever researched, and did you put it in a book? And I guess the answer is, well, yes. So,
Yeah.
Interesting. So, we usually have quite a few wannabe authors tuning in, or people that are working towards being authors. So I'd like to ask, what is the hardest part of writing? And then what is the easiest part of writing?
The easiest part is just laying out in the sun and letting ideas come and just playing in my own head.
I knew I wanted to be an author. I knew it.
Come off as just a little crazy at these things. Worries me a little.
I'm learning that with these interviews I've been doing. So,
so I love that part. The hard part is the scheduling piece. So, so often I'm marketing a book, and I'm writing a book, and I'm editing a book. So there's 3 different stories going on. And so if I get really into writing a book too soon in the year process, then my edits come in and cut me off. And I have to completely change course. And then it takes me longer to get back into the story. So it's actually better if I just wait a little bit. It's that scheduling that figuring out how to balance 3 stories at a time, because I'm always balancing 3 stories at a time.
Have you ever found yourself goofing it up? Like if you're working on edits and one of the other storylines or people's names come wandering in on you?
Just at the beginning. So when I sit down to do edits, I'm like, what is, oh, that's right. Wrong story. But usually I keep them straight. I will try to throw the same name in over and over again. I don't know why I do that. There's a few names that I'm always trying to name everyone.
Oh, well, that's not good. That's when you goof up storylines. And at one time I was reading two books, both mysteries. I don't read mysteries at the same time anymore. And in one book, the person's name was, Jim or something, and he was the good guy. And in the other book, Jim was the bad guy.
Uh-huh.
I had to stop reading one of the books because I'm like, I don't know what's going on in either book anymore. So
I like to list. I have an audiobook going usually, and a book I'm reading going, and then a book I'm reading to the kids going. But I try to keep different genres going so that it's easier to. Because I'm also balancing my 3 books on top of that. That's a lot of stories in my head.
So you sound like you're quite a reader then, besides writing.
I do love reading, yes.
Great. Now, are there authors that I used to ask what influenced you, but if you could have dinner with 1 or 2 authors, living or dead, who would they be and why?
Okay, so I have never been in the same place with Susie Finkbeiner, but I find her absolutely hilarious. And I need to spend time with Susie.
I'll see what I can do.
So that is on my list. I need that. Bethany Turner, I had dinner with once. I've only met her one time, and we were just cracking up the whole time. And so I'm like, I would totally Susie and Bethany at the same time. That would be fun. That would seriously be fun.
I have experienced that, and you just listen. So I will see what I can do. I'll see if I can get you. I happen to know Susie quite well. She's a good friend of mine. She lives just down the road. So let's see what we can do.
All right.
So Susie, if you're listening, and you are correct on Bethany. She is a hoot. So
we actually came to dinner wearing almost matching clothes.
Oh, perfect.
I got this great picture of the 2 of us in our buffalo plaid.
Oh, perfect. That's lovely. And it just says that you admire each other. I'm sure that's what. So, and here's a question for you. Your books all have different cast of characters and settings. So have you ever planned to revisit any of them in the future? And you know what? I was going to ask you about this little town if you were going to follow up on that.
So what I'd like to do, and now my littles are getting older, and so I'm back into, I have a little more freedom again. I would like to do some novella little stories. I have a follow-up story in my head for The Way It Should Be. I know exactly what happens. So although I always say I know exactly what happens, and I sit down to write it and something else comes out, so I don't know. Sorry. So yes, I would like to write some follow-ups, and yeah.
Because I know in Shaped by the Waves, you have that really subtitle or sub-story about the human trafficking.
Yeah.
And how the town, and I'm really sorry, this is a little bit of a spoiler for people, but it's interesting how many people were involved in that town. I would love a follow-up story.
That would be
just
fun.
One request.
Okay.
If you do that, then I will see what I can do with a Susie dinner.
Okay. You get me dinner with Susie, I'll get you a story.
Sounds good. I'm working on it. Susie, are you there? Susie. And then I think I can probably answer this for you, but somebody wants to know if you're a pantser or a plotter when you write.
My editors would love it if I was more of a plotter, but I am so not. And I send them a synopsis with such good intentions. I really do. That is really the story I plan on writing. And then I get to the end and they'll ask me for an updated synopsis. And so I read the old one and I'm like, oops, I got to write this story. With something else.
I'm sorry, that was the next book. This is the one I wrote now. Sorry, I'm working on that one.
So, they are so patient with me. So yeah.
You know what? I have a feeling they're probably used to it. Not from just you either.
Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're super good at it. Yeah.
I have to admit that that didn't really surprise me. So, but yeah, I hopefully that answers their question. So we're gonna go back to the book reading thing until we get more questions again. So, okay, so you would talk to Bethany and Susie. So what books are on your to be read pile right now?
Okay, so I just finished The Souls of Lost Lake.
Oh, oh, good book.
Fantastically creepy. I
No
loved
kidding.
it.
I
It was
tell
like,
I don't go camping and read this.
well, the funny thing is, I'm a director of a conference here in Oregon, and Jamie Joe's coming out to our conference, and it's at a camp. And I'm like, oh, I hope everyone's just picking up that book from the bookstore.
You need to leave a doll somewhere in camp. Just please
Oh,
do, and then take a picture because I need to know you
Harriet
did.
is the scariest thing I have seen in years.
I agree. It was like, Jamie, I can't read your books if you're going to do this too.
So that was great. I just finished that. I had started to read The Girl Who Could Breathe Underwater by Erin Bartels when I had surgery.
Oh,
And I have discovered this year, because I've had a couple surgeries so far, and I've discovered that it takes 2 weeks for my brain to focus again after the anesthesia. So I'm just starting it again. And it's great. The first few chapters are great, but
yeah.
I haven't had a chance to get further.
Oh, and such a good story. You're gonna love it. So.
And then the other thing that's on my list is When Stonewings Fly by Karen Barnett.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've gotten to read part of that as I'm in a critique group with her, but I haven't gotten to read the whole thing. And I think it is some of her best work. So I'm really excited.
Really? Oh, now I'm excited. So I'm hoping to get my hands on a copy this month because it comes out in July. June?
Yeah, I think that's right.
I think July is right.
June, and then it was moved to July or something like that.
Something like that. I know it got a little weird there, so which I felt bad for Karen, but yeah. So usually from that publisher, I get my books about a month in advance. So I'm hoping I get it soon. So, but yeah. Oh, those are all good books. So it sounds like you are one that will read like a good book. You're not focused on a certain genre.
No, I just want a really good book.
Yeah. Now, if somebody put your feet to the fire and said, what, you can only read one genre the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, that's torture.
People ask me that all the time, so I just pass it on.
That is just torture. Maybe mystery?
Okay.
I don't know. It depends on the day. I would answer that differently every single day of the week.
Okay, I'll have to give you that one because I used to say that without even batting an eye. Oh yeah, mystery and thriller, I love those. But now, because contemporary women's fiction, like you write, has gotten very strong, and just general anything dual time, and that has become such a strong, almost on its own genre. So it's hard. Yeah, I'm like you. Well, it depends on what I'm reading right now. That's my favorite. So that's awesome. So, okay. I want to I think I'm missing a question, but I'm going to ask you. Somebody wants to know, where do you get your ideas for your books?
Okay, so every time I finish a book, I am so afraid that I'm never going to have another idea. Probably because I shove all of them in one book, but then all of a sudden it just shows up. So
Okay.
I think God just drops it on me, and I'm like, all right, let's go with that. So I don't even. It's usually I'm taking a walk or a shower or somewhere where my kids aren't talking, and
Okay.
those places seem to be really hard to find sometimes.
Right.
It just something interests me, and then my mind just starts going crazy with all the other things that could happen, and then how would you react to that, or what if you came from this experience, how would this experience land on you? You know, how would it impact your life
Right.
in
Interesting.
conjunction with your past?
Now, and we kind of jokingly, and there's more questions, so I'll get to those in a second, but it made me think about that. You know, you kind of jokingly said, you know, well, I gave this synopsis, this is the book you're getting. So, and I know you also said you're a pantser, but how much of the story do you know? Like you said, hey, it suddenly comes to me. Now, did Cassie's story come all the way through to you? Like I knew that Parkinson's, I knew, or is that something that comes along as things happen?
Originally it wasn't Parkinson's.
Oh,
And yeah, originally it wasn't Parkinson's. And I talked to a dear friend of mine, Jody Bailey. We try to talk every week, and she holds me accountable, and I try to hold her accountable, and she's just an amazing person. And she said, you know, why don't you look at doing Parkinson's? It wasn't that long after my dad had passed, and I felt like it was the right time. And so she knows me well enough that she can make these suggestions that I don't necessarily want to hear, but they're right. Does it make sense?
it does. It does. And then, you know, it's good to have somebody that does that for you.
Yeah, she's the best.
Awesome.
She also knows when I'm losing my mind and how to calm down. And it's great.
You know, it's way overrated. So I have one here. It says, do your editors ask you to make many changes once you get the whole thing in? Not from synopsis to what you have, but
no, I would say not.
Okay.
With the way it should be, I knew that the ending wasn't going to be traditional. And so we talked about that. And that was in the synopsis, that it wouldn't be traditional, but I didn't know exactly all the pieces that would happen. And I'm not going to tell you because you have to read the book. But they were really great about that. And there was some, I thought maybe they'd asked me to make some changes there, and we just discussed it. And yeah, my editors have been really great. I love
awesome.
my editors so much.
Well, that's good. You can give her a shout out if you want.
Well, I have a new one. I have Jennifer now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Rochelle is now moved up to Rayla's old position, and Rayla moved over to Noelle's old position. But yeah, both of them are wonderful. Rochelle's coming out to Oregon this next month too.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah,
let's see. Here's a good one for you. You always have such fun launch gifts. Which has been your favorite to imagine or create? What a fun question.
I think my favorite was for the way it should be, because my little girls and I, we did all this crap. So we have this character, Zara, who does natural homemade products. So we were making soap and lotion bars, and my upstairs still smells way too much like lavender because I had all this lavender for these different things. And my girls would like, they have lavender in their Barbie house, and I just it's
everywhere.
It can be a little overwhelming. I'm vacuuming lavender a lot. So that was really so much fun. And we had Zara's garden stickers. But then for More Than We Remember, my friend Kit, who has Subtlety in Sisters, Oregon, they put together a special tea blend.
Fun.
So we had our own special tea. It was supposed to help keep your brain functioning well. So anyway, it was.
They're nice. So I need that more than I like to say. So.
And the tea was so good. Oh my goodness. It was amazing. Nice.
So are you a tea drinker or coffee drinker or both?
Both. This is my ginger peach tea that I drink all day long. But I start every day with coffee. And if I can get more coffee in the middle of the day, that's awesome too.
Okay. That's good. Just curious. So, and then there's one more question I got here, and I'm sure there'll be more as we roll along here, but somebody asked, what was your favorite childhood book? Which is a fantastic question, whoever asked that.
Oh, that is a fantastic question. I loved all the books. I'm
See, and
serious. But
I
I
I agree with you because it's hard because as a child, I don't reread books now. There's just so many good ones out there. I don't have time. And I know people do. It's all personal choice. But as a child, I reread books all the time. So
I just read anything I could get my hands on. And I didn't even realize I was reading so much until I think I was in 5th or 6th grade, and I ran into my 4th grade teacher, and he said, "Oh, are you still hiding books in your textbooks?" I was like, "You knew?" Because
oh
I
yeah.
would, hide the novel behind the textbook. Oh yeah, I'm reading what we're supposed to be reading.
Yeah.
Oh, my that it would probably depend on how old I was too. When I read Kill a Mockingbird in high school, it like changed I don't know. My whole perspective of story changed, I think, at that point.
Okay.
I loved that. That's one that I reread numerous times. I read classics in high school, like The Scarlet Letter.
Okay.
Oh, why can I not think of the name of that one that I really loved when it was the cake and the anyway.
Younger child book or is it an older child?
No, it was a classic.
Oh.
I loved the Little House on the Prairie series when I was younger. I read some story. I remember this moment. I must have been 4th or 5th grade, and I was reading this book, and the girl, she was upset about something. I don't remember what she was upset about, but she had a cat on her lap, and she threw the cat down, and I just started sobbing uncontrollably. I was so upset by this, and my dad is like, "What is wrong?" I went, and he just like walked away.
Non-readers learn that quickly about us fiction readers. If they start crying and it's a fictional, just walk away. It's just best for everybody.
I was inconsolable.
Well, that was a good story. Let us all know later on your website what it was so that we can all go, oh yeah, we all read that. So,
I have no idea what that book was. I just remember that one part.
isn't that interesting stories that make an impact?
I read this book when I was a kid about these people that had a volcano. It turned out they had a volcano in their basement. And I remember loving that book. And so when my first kids, I homeschooled my first 4, and I wanted to read them that book, but I couldn't find it anywhere. I couldn't figure out what it was. But we had this wonderful librarian, Dana, who got in touch with all these other librarians online, and they found the book, and they found this old copy of it that they had sent to the library for me. And now I've forgotten the name of it again. But I like that one.
Book with the volcano in the basement. I'm sure it'll pop right up.
I read so many books that I think I just don't remember the titles of them but I can remember pieces of all these stories.
Right. And because for me too, there's only certain ones. I mean, like Caddy Woodlawn was one. I think I reread that 10 or 12 times. And in fact, I went and bought a copy as an adult because mine as a kid had fallen apart. And, I read that in the Narnia books. And I think of Nancy Drew. And, how many of those didn't I read over and over and over again? Because, well, of course, I was going to be Nancy Drew. Yes. What else would I be?
My 9-year-old loves Nancy Drew.
I love to hear that. I'm glad she's still a favorite, even though now, and I don't know because my kids are well grown. And so we were reading when they were younger, the old ones. Are the new ones more modernized then?
She reads the old ones.
Good.
So
Good.
The funny thing is though, she's like, what? Because they say things different or the words mean different things. And she's like, what do they mean?
I can remember when my youngest was reading one that she says, I really wish they had, I think it was a computer, of course it was the big desktop we all had, because then she could look it up. And I'm like, well, there's a generational thing. So, but that was a great question. That's a good one. It's fun to talk about childhood books because, you think of the normal kid ones, the Sea Dog or Red Dog, Green Dog. I think that's the Dr. Seuss one. I can remember reading that one to children until I had it memorized and when I never want to see this book again. But so
I remember coming in when my husband had started reading Where the Red Fern Grows to my kids and just immediately feeling like, you can't read that to my kids. Like, you're going to break them.
nothing should happen to them. They don't need to know these bad things. Because I can remember watching Old Yeller for the first time with my girls too. And it was like, and I knew it was coming. And I knew they were going to do the exact same thing I did, was ball and hug my dog. And they did the exact same thing. It's like, why do I let people watch this? So if you can, and I know sometimes you can't, but what's up next for you in your writing? What's your next book look like? And we know it might be different.
It's so funny that you say it like that because it's called What Happens Next.
Oh, I knew that.
So What Happens Next comes out January 17th. And it was so much fun to write. I just turned in edits yesterday, right? Or the day before yesterday. I think it was yesterday. It's all blur now.
What day was it? I don't know.
It's about a podcaster who spends her kids are gone for the summer, and she is called back to do a case that involves her childhood best friend from the summer she spent in this little town in Oregon. And little does she know, her friend has been missing since the summer of 1987. So the perspectives are the mother of the girl who's gone missing and the podcaster. And then we go back to 1987 and hear the story from the girl Heather's perspective. So
interesting.
So writing a story in 1987 was so much fun. I loved every moment of that.
Oh, 80s were fine. They were fine.
The 80s were the best.
I won't tell you what I was doing in most of the 80s. So I was already married, had children. So we moved on. I have that reaction when somebody says their book is written in the 70s. I'm like, yes. That's the era I like.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sorry, I was going to ask you, you said January, correct?
Mm-hmm. January 17th.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure we have that right. And I'm going to do a store plug here. I know I told you we weren't going to do a lot of them, but you probably can pre-order that on bakerbookhouse.com pretty soon. So keep your eyes open on there and get your orders in. I think I saw it on there. I thought so too. And I didn't want to say it was and then be wrong. So like I said, I'm pretty sure it's already on there. So great discounts on it. That's always fun. So
the cover is amazing. They did an incredible job with the cover. And it looks like you're walking on this dirt road where I grew up out in Blodgett. It's just
really,
yeah. It's really
awesome. So, and somebody actually asked this question. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm just going to ask it and you can just kind of go there. Was 1987 an important year in your life, or did you just randomly pick it?
I don't remember why I picked 1987. I was in high school, barely.
Okay.
So I don't remember why I chose that particular year, but it was just another year in my teenage life, I guess. I mean, it was a fun year. If you look back, it was cool. Everything was cool in the 80s. We were wearing neon and
yeah, and everybody, yeah.
My hair was made for the 80s.
Was it big in the 80s? You had the big hair? I've had this haircut since I think it was in high school. So
my bangs did this huge.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about the bangs. Because when I was growing up, it was the Farrah Fawcett hair.
Yes.
Mine wouldn't do that. I had long hair. I was going to do that. Mine, you put the curl in. By the time I got to school, it was all out. I gave up.
So in early middle school, we were still doing the feathering thing. And my sister was always trying to make me more presentable because I think I was a bit of an embarrassment. My stepsister and I were in the same grade.
Oh,
She was tall and gorgeous, and I looked like an awkward 10-year-old boy. So she worked really hard to improve the outlook. Yeah, so she was always trying to train my hair. She was always calling it training. You just have to train it.
train your hair, which we did a lot of that in the 80s, if I remember correctly, training our hair to go in very big directions. I forgot about the bangs though. Oh man, the bigger the better. I remember that being said. I'm like, yeah, and I can remember in high school, like I said, I graduated in 82, so the 80s still are. And I can remember thinking, because somebody said something about that, and I'm like, I'd have to get up earlier to do that. I don't want to get up earlier, so I just never did it.
Well, and we had to ride 2 buses to get to school. We were
Holy
like
cow.
we were the first kids because we lived way out in the middle of absolute nowhere. So we would get on the bus. It was dark. We had my dad had built us this little bus house down the hill. So we take our flashlights down in there so that we'd have them to walk back up to the house in the dark when we got home. But yeah, we would take one bus, pick up all the Blodgett kids, and then the Philomath bus would come in and meet us, and we'd go the rest of the way on that bus. So
Holy cow. You have me
So
beat. My bus ride was not that long.
we got up early.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Wow. See, that's a good thing for a story, by the way. Kids riding the bus forever.
It just seemed like it would never end.
Yeah. I can remember I used to do homework on the bus, usually on the way home, because, not like you, we didn't get home after dark, but, it's 4:30, 5 o'clock when I got home. So it's like, I want to get off the bus and play. I don't want to do homework. So
The worst part was that being on the bus while it was still dark, you couldn't read yet. And I remember that just like by the window, just waiting for there to be just enough light to.
drive closer. Yeah, I may have done that too when it's dark in the morning.
You remember those pajamas that you could make spark?
Oh,
Like, if you
yeah.
Real together? I remember as a kid thinking, I wish these would spark enough to make enough light so I could read. These are the things I thought.
You explain to that young child now, that would be like, well, a fire.
That makes sense now. I was just trying to figure out how I could get away with reading after bedtime. So
yes, more than once my parents would yell at me, and I always asked my mom how she knew I was reading. She says, well, that's because I was always reading too. I'm like, okay, well, I feel better. So.
Yeah, I have my 11-year-old is always reading.
I know, and it's one of those things where I don't want to discourage it, but you do have to go to bed.
Yeah, or eat dinner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true too. I didn't think of that. So I got a couple questions here as we near the end of our hour. One of the ones, because I love the answers I get, and sometimes the answers are, I don't know. So it's okay. What is one thing you wish your readers knew about you, but no one has ever asked about before? That was a good thinking face.
Maybe, okay, this is going to sound really cliche or ridiculous, but it's true. How much I appreciate that they actually read my books. And it's like,
that is the cutest thing ever.
Anytime someone says, oh, I read your book, I'm like, oh! It is still so amazing to me that people will do that.
It's like you don't even know me and you read the book.
Exactly. I mean, it is such a huge honor that someone would pick up my book and read it. And I know as a writer, I never felt like, I'm reading a book and I'm just reading a book. I don't think about that. But from this perspective, it's just like, oh, Thank you so much for reading that.
That's so cute. I love that answer. That is really cute. So, and then I got to ask, have you ever seen somebody reading your book in like a really weird place? Because sometimes I've heard like one author said, well, I found my book in the back of a toilet in a public restroom one time.
Someone forgot it?
Yeah, they probably put it down and then, because I think he said it was in the airport. So, that would make sense that they were, walked to the bathroom, set it down, and walked away. But he says, I didn't know whether to be appalled or hope somebody else picked it up.
I don't think I've ever run into anyone reading my book, any of my books. So
I'm sorry. I should have asked then. Yeah.
Well, I would probably just accost them though, like, oh my goodness, thank you. They would be like, oh, okay, crazy.
No, you have to be way cool about it and say, oh, I know that author. She's awesome. And then just walk away.
Yeah, my plan for being cool often falls apart when I try to actually execute it.
Okay, I can relate to that completely. So besides bakerbookhouse.com, where can we find information about you and your books? Websites, newspaper, where are you?
My website is christinasusannnelson.com. It's very tricky.
Very tricky. How do you spell that?
Just remember not to put an E on the end of Suzann.
Very good.
And I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and we have this really cool new VIP group on Facebook. So you can apply to join that, which is, we're going to have a lot of fun over there. In fact, we're going to be discussing The Souls of Lost Lake in the next couple of weeks, because I need people to talk to me about this book. We have to talk about it. So
well, the next hour is going to be all about Jamie's book.
I must have someone talk to me about this book. So
well, good. Awesome. We will look for you there. Do you have, I know I said newspaper, I meant newsletter. Do you have, if you
I do have a newsletter.
Like okay, good.
So in fact, my newsletter, the names for the characters in the next book and what happens next, my newsletter readers all voted and came up with names, and that's where the names for those characters came from. So that was so much fun.
That's always a fun thing to, especially when you read the book later, it's like, oh, so awesome. Well, this has been a hoot. And I feel like we should apologize to the listeners because you and I had fun. So hopefully they did too. So they had some good questions. I really appreciated those. So I always enjoyed that. So, but it was fun to hear about your research and about your book and, all that went into Shaped by the Waves, and even the other, what do you have now? 4, 5?
5.
So
5, yeah. 5.
Yeah.
I have to look at the shelf just to make
sure.
I
know, and I'm like, and I'm not at the store, so I don't
correctly.
have it in front of me. So I'm also like, awkward.
I don't, math is not my strong suit.
I work in a bookstore, not in an accounting office.
I married an accountant.
Oh, well, that's always interesting. So, but thank you for coming by and talking to us. I look forward to your next book, and we will definitely work on that dinner with Susie sometime soon.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for coming and listening.
Definitely. So thank you everybody for joining us. Hopefully we'll see you again soon on a virtual event. And don't forget to get your books at bakerbookhouse.com. Good night, everybody.